Good morning everybody. In the previous video we have seen what is a merger process, and we also studied the five stage model for mergers. Now we are going to go ahead with the same module and look for what is due diligence. Okay? It's a very important step in any merger or an acquisition, because this step determines the success or failure of a particular merger. So let's have a look at what is due diligence. There is a first of all, there is a common thread that runs throughout much of the merger and acquisition process. It is called as due diligence. So due diligence, as I said, is a very important step in any merger and acquisition process. Now, what is due diligence? Due diligence is a very detailed and extensive evaluation of the proposed merger. So we have discussed this in the previous video also. It is a very detailed and extensive investigation of the target firm. An overriding question is, will this merger work? In order to, will this merger work? So everybody is very much wanting to know whether the merger would be successful or it would be a failure. In order to answer this question, we must determine what kind of fit exists between the two companies. Okay? So there is something called as fit that should exist between the two companies, which is further divided into various types of fits. Okay? So if that fit is there in between the two companies, then the answer would be yes, the merger would be successful. If there is no fit between the two companies, then the merger will not be successful. And finding out this fit between the two companies is an essential part of due diligence. So let's just understand what are the various fits that should be there in the two companies when they are. What are the various types of fits? First one is the investment fit, strategic fit, marketing fit, operating fit, management fit, and financial fit. So these are the 6 fits that we need to analyze in the due diligence process to make sure that there is a proper integration and between the two companies and the merger is successful. Let's due diligence process. So due diligence is also very broad and deep, extending well beyond the functional areas of finance, production, and human resource. So it does not only deal with understanding whether there is a finance fit or operating fit and the management fit, but it is much beyond these areas. Okay. So this is extremely important, since due diligence most expose all the major risks associated with the proposed merger. Okay. So why it is extremely important is because before going for the deal, before going for the merger, due diligence will help you to understand, or it will expose all the major issues or all the major risks associated with a particular merger. So what are these different types of risks? Let us just try to understand the various types of risk involved in a particular merger, and how does due diligence help you in assessing these particular risks. So some of the risk areas that need to be investigated are, first one is market risk. So how large is the targets market? So when you are buying a company, what is the size of the market that the target company belongs to? Is that market growing? What are the major threats in that particular market where the target market is currently operating? Can we improve it through a merger? So all these questions have to be asked to check what is the market risk associated with the target firm. Second one is the customer risk. Who are the customers of the target firm? Does the business complement the target firm target's customers? Then can we furnish these customers new service and products? So this is related to the customer risks. In simple words, whether the merger or whether the acquirer would be able to retain the customers of the target company or no has to be properly analyzed. Because if it is not able to, if it cannot retain the existing customers of the target company, then there is a customer risk involved in that particular merger. So it has to be properly analyzed whether the merger will help in retaining the existing customers of the target company. Third one is the competition risk. So who competes with the target company? What is the competition that the target company is facing? What are the barriers to the competition? Are there any barriers to the competition which are already existing in that particular market situation? How will a merger change this competitive environment? So these are the various questions that you need to ask to check the competitive risk involved in that particular merger. Okay, and is it possible to avoid that particular risk? Okay, what are the benefits that the merger will give in achieving a competitive position? All these things have to be analyzed in competition risk. Next one is the legal risk, which is very important. What legal issues can we expect due to the merger and acquisition? Because when a company merges with another firm, there are lots of legal issues which may crop up after the merger, like issues related to labor, issues related to the society, issues related to maybe environment, etc., etc. So all these legal issues have to be properly analyzed before any further step is taken towards the merger. Other legal issues may be what liabilities, lawsuits, and other claims are outstanding against the target company has to be also analyzed, because there might be certain cases already pending against the target company, and if you take over that target company, those cases you have to take it along with those cases. So how uh, bad or how important are those cases, and how will it affect the company directly or indirectly, has to be properly analyzed. So all these analysis comes under the legal risk. So the legal risk is very important, and it is to be properly analyzed when further going for a merger process. Okay, so due diligence is an absolutely essential for uncovering potential problems. Yes, as we have already seen, due diligence will help you in uncovering or unfolding the problems that you may face in future, exposing risk and liabilities, and helping to ensure that there are no surprises after the merger is announced. So this is how due diligence will help you basically. Like, it will help you in exposing or analyzing the risk, analyzing the liabilities, analyzing the problem areas, so that there are no shocks in the future. After the merger happen, you should not get a shock saying, okay, I did not knew this. So if proper due diligence is done, then you will not experience shocks after the merger is completed. Now, unfortunately, in today's fast-paced environment, some companies decide to bypass due diligence and make an offer based on competitive intelligence and public information. That is what the situation is, because they don't want to waste time in detailed investigation. They directly go for the announcement of the merger based on the competitive intelligence and public information which is readily available. Then due diligence, certainly one goal of due diligence is to remove distortions from financial statement. Yes, that is a very important role that is played by due diligence. There is any distortions, any misappropriations, or any window dressing that is done in the financial statement has to be properly brought out. That is the main aim of due diligence. So due diligence helps you in exposing any frauds or misappropriation of balance sheets and financial statements of a target company. So this is necessary so that acquiring company can ascertain a more realistic value of the target company. So what do we do in this? Okay, what are the related issues, and what do we do in analyzing or investigating a financial statement? First one is sometimes the liabilities are understated. So understatement of liabilities such as pensions or allowance for bad debts. So understatement means low. They are valuated at a lower price. So to show lesser liabilities, the accountants or the management can manipulate the books and show the liabilities at a lower end. Low quality of assets. What are relative market values of the assets? Some assets may be overvalued. Okay, sometimes the assets valued are so the depreciation charge is less, so assets are overvalued, whereas the actual value of that asset is very low. So that is to be analyzed. Then hidden liabilities. There might be certain hidden liabilities which are not showcased or which are not shown in the financial statement. That has to be analyzed. Then overstated receivables. There are no receivables at all, but it is there in the balance sheet. That may also happen. Overstating inventories without having inventories, or using methods which will give you higher amounts of inventories, is another manipulation that the target management can get involved into. And valuation of short-term marketable securities and intangibles. So all these are the various issues which are related to the balance sheet, which has to be properly analyzed by the acquirer before going ahead with the merger process. And this is a very integral part or a very important part of due diligence, to analyze the financial statement of the target company. Coming to the last part of due diligence, we have something called as the 5-stage. As we have a 5-stage model of due diligence, as we have the 5-stage model for mergers, we do have a 5-stage model for due diligence also. So let us just understand what are these 5 stages and how due diligence is done in these 5 stages. So following 5 stages approach has been designed to help manage a corporate finance process effectively and timelessly. This process can be viewed as a cycle of due diligence containing critical points at which to decide whether or not to move forward. Okay, so this 5-stage process will also help the management of the acquiring company to take a decision as to whether to go for the merger or not to go for the merger. The stages one by one. First stage is called as the preferred sector analysis. Okay, let us not go with the terms over there, but the most important thing is whenever you want to acquire a particular company, you have to first analyze in which sector does that target company belong to. So it is basically the analysis of the sector in which the target company belongs. So what do we do in this sectoral analysis? Is the project viable at micro level? First is the micro analysis done, whether it is viable, and for that we have to conduct a preliminary research. Then we have to start analyzing the industry. So we have to understand, we have to analyze the industry attractiveness, analyzing the macro issues, like the best empirical measures for industry attractiveness is ROC. What is the ROC? That is the return on capital of that particular industry, has to be properly analyzed. If the return on capital is high, that means that particular sector or that particular industry is very good. Then what are the barriers of entry or barriers to entry into that particular industry? If there are barriers to entry in the industry, that means the industry is attractive because there would be less competition. If there are barriers, if there are no barriers, then there are chances that there would be more competition in future and industry may not be so attractive. So we have to understand what are the barriers of entry into that particular sector. Then what are the demand and supply factors? What is the demand for the product, whether the supply for the raw materials is available? All these have to be properly analyzed. And what is the growth of the market or growth of that particular sector? Is the market growing? Is it slowing down? What is the growth of that market has to be properly analyzed. So all these analysis are done, okay, in the preferred sector analysis, to understand whether the industry that you are entering into or the sector that you are entering into is attractive or it is not attractive. Second one is the war room. Okay, this is the second stage of due diligence. Here what happens, once it is established that the new project's target industry is reasonable, that is the when you once you have analyzed the preferred sector and you find that yes, that sector or that industry is attractive, likely to succeed a project, is elected and the team of specialists is chosen. Okay, so once it is decided that yes, the industry is good, the sector is attractive, then a special team of specialists is chosen. When setting out on the path of due diligence, the first step is to make strategic assessments of the company's own current operations and competitive situation. So before going ahead with the further steps in due diligence, first you need to understand your own company. Like as an acquirer, what is my current operation and what is my current competitive situation also needs to be understood. Then the team, it is crucial that people assembled on the due diligence assessment team are objective as possible during the process. Here there is a team which is formulated and it is expected that the team is assessing the process more objectively rather than subjectively. Then next one is setting targets. Okay, if you understand, first one is you do the analysis of the sector, then is the war room where you decide on the team, you set up a team of experts to analyze the process. Third one is setting targets. Now the pattern of delegating, mandating and collaborating, the team can classify the kind of decision system by which it will operate. So basically once the team is formed in the war room, in the second stage, that is the war room, the third stage is setting targets for that team. So it is about delegating the responsibilities, mandating and collaborating amongst the team. Next step is to generate a set of major decisions and decision areas with which the organization is concerned. So what the team is expected, what are the major decisions that the team should take, or what are the decision areas under which the team should operate, has to be properly set. Then later the team can review dominant pattern like centralization or decentralization. What is preferred has to be properly analyzed by that particular team. So that is the target for the team. Before entering into the next highly detailed stage of due diligence, the strategists or the team should begin defining requirements for from financial and strategic perspective. The team should also understand, or it should list down the requirements from a financial perspective as well as a strategic perspective. Then expand contact with the opposing corporate team. Okay, the team which you have already formed, or the strategic team that you have already formulated, should contact the team, the corporate team of the target company, to begin understand their skills, temperament and motivation, and in preparation of negotiating and for working with them later. So that team which has been formulated, okay, has to work in sync with the target company's corporate team, so that later after the merger they work together as a team and they integrate properly. Then establish an informal means of dialogue with this team. Okay, once that contact with the team is developed, then we have to the strategic team which has been formulated has to informally have a dialogue or a discussion with that corporate team of the target company. Why? To check out, clear up misunderstanding and to handle those difficult areas that arise, that may slow the process or difficult to resolve in a more formal negotiation. So this is what is done in setting the targets. Basically the team which is already formed in the war room now has been given targets, and it has to achieve those targets by properly coordinating with the team of the target company. The corporate deal is done, you have decided everything and all the precautions are been properly taken, is finalized. Last comes the finalization and integration. The objective of this stage is to finally negotiate on the prices and various other terms of the process, and to close the deal on reasonable, reliable and satisfactory terms. So this is what happens in the finalization and integration stage. Okay. By now the strategic team should have clear idea of the following issues. The strategic team, if you remember, which was formulated in stage 2, should have a clear idea as to how and when the deal will add profit, that is forecasting ROI, what are the major risks involved, principal outstanding issues, what are the important issues that are not addressed yet or that has to be addressed, and how the deal will be structured, what would be the structure of the deal, the amount, type and cost of financing available to the company, and the price range within which the deal should be negotiated. All these things should be known to the strategic team which is formulated. Then to complete the deal, the following has to be undertaken. Negotiations, first one is negotiations. So negotiations is done, then the legal signing of the contract or agreements, then closing the deal, and lastly you do the operational integration. So all the operations of both the firms are integrated. There are three key areas or key factors in any negotiations. Okay, so whenever you are doing negotiations and finalizing, there are three areas which you have to focus upon. First one is information. In addition to all facts gathered during the due diligence, there is a need to have a solid undertaking of personalities and motivations of key people involved. So you have to properly collect information apart from whatever you've collected in the due diligence. It is needed to take undertakings of the people and motivate those people who are involved in the process to give further information about the process or about the company. And time, both sides are usually some kind of time pressure to close the deal. So time is very important. You cannot just continue with the deal for a very long time. There is a time pressure involved and you have to close the deal within that particular time. And the last one is power. We have to always understand that nobody should be forced to negotiate. You should not overpower the deal or the negotiation. It should be on the basis of a common consensus between the two parties. So whenever there is a negotiation, it should be agreed upon by both the parties. It should not be forced upon any of the parties. So this is all about your due diligence process. So I'll just highlight the point. Due diligence is detailed investigation and understanding or uncovering the possible problems due to the mergers. So then we start in this particular thing, we also studied what are the various fits that has to be studied, and whether those fits are present in a process, a merger process, or no, has to be properly analyzed. Then what are the various risks involved in a particular merger and process, has to be properly analyzed in the due diligence process. And lastly, the 5-stage process of due diligence. I hope you're clear with this very important chapter of due diligence. Okay, if there are any doubts, you can get back to me on the group so that we can clarify those doubts. Thank you.